This is my intro music. Welcome to the video. I hope you like it lots, so don't forget to subscribe and click the thumbs up button. Now let's react.
Hey, hi, hello there, and welcome to another episode of An Anthropologist Listens to Anna O'Brien's podcast, because I hate myself, apparently. So here's the deal. We listened to the first episode, and that was mostly Anna telling us how it's not her fault that she's obese, it's everyone else's fault, plus super special secret super obesity genes. If you think I'm kidding, go listen to the episode. But what got me through that was we were playing Sims. Here's the deal. I do plan on listening to this entire podcast, and I will be playing Sims the entire time. However, the edited version of this will probably not have the entire podcast in it because it probably will not be relevant. Also, I am not trying to do another 4-hour episode of anything. So this is hopefully going to be no more than 2 hours, because if it is, I will just cut it down. So here we are. I mean, shit, the podcast is only like an hour. How long is this stupid thing? Okay, it's an hour and 13 minutes, but can I speed it up? I can. So before we get into this, I have already listened to the first episode with Anna O'Brien. This podcast is Anna O'Brien and a woman by the name of Dr. Nance. Dr. Nance is not an obesity doctor. She is an orthopedic surgeon for hand and arm, and I'm assuming she knows what she's doing. I mean, that would be the hope. And Anna has absolutely no medical background whatsoever. Anna's background is in social media, if that. We are playing the scenario Stuck in Their Shadows with Nova Curious, and she has married Errol because I love him. I will not be fought. Anyway, so those two, Aaron Pines, they're together. They are lovely. They're going to make beautiful, smart little children together. And that's the extent of this. So we're just going to keep working on the scenario. I have purposefully slowed it down, and if anybody has played the scenario before. The only way you can get Nova Curious is to play this scenario. And I kind of wanted to start a legacy challenge with these two as the OGs. So that's why we're playing this. In the meantime, we're going to be listening to Anna. The last time I did this, the podcast itself was really quiet. So we're going to try, hopefully it won't be as quiet, but I don't know. There's nothing I can do about it on my end other than to sit here and cut out every other segment where she's talking and then boost the audio. To be frank, I pulled the audio out of the last one and fed it through Audacity, and I did all of the little tricks that I have always done to podcasts with Audacity, and that was the audio boosted. So if the audio turns out to be a little too quiet this time, I will do the same thing, but if she's quiet, I'm sorry. Anyway, why we are skipping the second episode. And the reason for that is, I'm behind. I don't know if I want to do every single one of these episodes until they crap out. Fingers crossed. But this is Caroline's story when food turns fatal. In this deeply moving and inspiring episode, I think they say that in every single one of these episodes, of the medical detectives, Dr. Nance and Anna sit down with Caroline, a vibrant and determined young woman navigating life with a mysterious syndrome that makes her allergic to most foods. From her early childhood experiences with life-threatening allergies to her diagnosis during college, Caroline shares the twists, turns, and triumphs of living with a chronic condition that redefined her life. This episode is a testament to resilience, the importance of community, and the human capacity to adapt in the face of uncertainty. Tune in for a story that will resonate with anyone living with or loving someone with a chronic condition. Da-da-da-da-da. I don't know who's writing these. To be perfectly frank, they sound like Anna. I don't know the inner workings of this podcast. Dr. Nance does not talk a lot. I don't know why she's there other than to lend credibility to the podcast by putting the word doctor in it. From what I have, Anna's story, Anna just talked. And from what I've picked up from the second episode, Anna just talked over the other person who's supposed to be there. There's 3 of them here. There is video of this, but not that I can find. Yep, it's not available here. But Anna will share little clips here and there, so I know somewhere in the great wide world there is a full video clip of this. So none of these women are all in the same room, and that's fine. It really isn't. But the intro part of this is just so scripted. And it's cringily, it's very cringy scripted. It's not natural whatsoever. So that we're looking forward to that. I thought Caroline's story would be interesting because Caroline is going to have to discuss food. And Anna is insistent that food is not her problem. So I want to see how Anna's going to handle somebody who has food issues, like apparently severe allergies to the food. Now, going off of the comments from the second episode where they were talking to a woman who had some weird eye problem. I didn't listen to the episode. Apparently, several of the listeners took their takeaway from the episode was don't listen to your doctors. And I find that to be an interesting takeaway. And Dr. Nance replied directly to one of the commenters before deleting the comment altogether, which is weird. Why would you reply to it before deleting it? But Dr. Nance did not address the fact that the takeaway was don't listen to your doctors. And she just kind of rambled on about how they're trying to platform people who have difficult diagnoses or mysterious illnesses, yada, yada, chronic something, something. It was like a whole paragraph, but never addressed the fact that the takeaway was don't trust your doctor, right? I didn't listen to that one. I'm just going off of the comments. One of the other things you need to know about the podcast is they do have comments, I believe, on Spotify and I think on Apple. And if you go to other podcasting platforms where you can have comments, they have comments there. Anna has completely turned off comments, from what I've been told, on her YouTube channel. She's had the comments turned off of her shorts for a long time now. Well, you know, in the age of the internet. So there is no way to communicate with Anna on YouTube. Not that she ever checks her comments anyway. But anyway. The problem is they go into Spotify, at least they have on the last 2 episodes, whoever they are. I don't know if it's Anna. I don't know if it's Dr. Nance. I don't know if they have an intern. Someone associated with the podcast goes into the comments section and deletes anything that is not a smoke-blowing, ass-kissingly good review. The problem is you can't delete star reviews, right? You can't delete ratings. So their ratings are going to be reflective of what people really think, even if the comment section looks all rosy-posy. This is the greatest episode. This is the greatest podcast that ever existed. And you're not seeing all of the people who are like, hey, this is bad information. Hey, my experience with XYZ is not the same. There were several people in Anna's episode that were just straight calling Anna out, which I understand Anna doesn't like any form of accountability. So there is that, which is another reason why I don't think this podcast is going to last very long. Just because, like, at some point, the podcast itself is going to hold Anna responsible for things, and Anna doesn't do responsibility. So here we are. Anything else I need to say about this before we get going? I did speed the podcast up, so if they sound very fast... Oh, look. There we go. That might help. I didn't realize I had it turned down. But anyway, if they sound like they're talking really fast, that's because hopefully the game sound isn't too high, so that shouldn't interfere with anything, and that's all I've got. So let us get started into this next episode, and... let's go. Too fast.
So before we even started recording today, I just was talking because I'm still not skilled enough in the world of the podcast to realize that it counts down before you go. So I gave you guys a wonderful introduction to this episode.
La podcast. All right, I do have to slow her down. I'm so sorry.
I'll try to make up for it in the future. But let's just segue into the reality of things. How are you doing, Dr. Nance?
Oh, I'm still recovering from the response of our first and second podcast, which was just insane.
You mean the criticism?
Getting stopped in the street.
You got stopped in the street?
Yeah, which is, usually not a good sign for a doctor, right?
No.
Dr. Nance, the TikTok doctor, has been getting stopped in the streets for a podcast where no one can see what you look like to talk to you about the podcast, but not stopped because of your TikTok presence. I think I see why Dr. Nance and Anna are working together now.
That's not good. But no, I've just been overwhelmed by the response from all the listeners and all the people who are really feeling seen and feeling heard kind of for the first time.
Honestly, that's what we set out to do, and it feels so good that it's working. Like, I feel like there's just not a lot of places for these kind of discussions to happen, and I'm so glad that we get to be that place. Like, what a cool job. We're not making any money yet, but I'd like to say it's cool. It will be cooler when we get, you know what, actually, I would do it even if we didn't make money, because that's not what it's about, but, money is nice. Let's not.
It's totally about money. Anna doesn't do shit unless she gets paid, or unless there's something in it for her, so... The speculation has been that this is mostly for Anna's own ego and her ability to be like, I'm an author and a creator and a podcaster. I don't know why she needs to add this to her resume, but she clearly wants to. And she clearly wants it to be a medical podcast. Why isn't she doing this podcast with Karen Herbst or Dr. Amron or somebody else who's already been sucking on her ass? I don't know. I don't know how these two women have met. I am very curious to know the origin stories of this podcast because, it's very sus. But anyway, seeing as Dr. Nance is already making very suspicious stories about being stopped in the street to be asked about this podcast, sure, Jan. But anyway.
I got medical bills.
Well, I'm super excited to introduce our next interviewee. And I would say, imagine that you have a food allergy, but on steroids.
That sounds terrible, but I'm intrigued. So let's jump in.
Here we go. Let's do it. Hi, Caroline. Welcome to the Medical Detectives.
Hi, so glad to be here.
So tell me a little bit about yourself, Caroline. Let's just jump right in. I can't wait to hear about your story.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a roller coaster, so strap in. But it all kind of starts from day one. I was born a happy, healthy baby, which is great. Until I was 2 years old, I randomly had an anaphylactic allergic reaction to crackers with traces of nuts in them, which looking back on now was really the first incident or hint to what I would later be diagnosed with. And this was totally shocking to my parents because
the editor has not gotten any better.
They had no idea I had developed allergies, and I don't remember any of it, but apparently it was really, really horrifying. I blew up like a balloon. My throat got super tight. So I was just kind of, all I could really make out was like screaming whistle notes. And they got me to the hospital just in time. So they called 911, the ambulance came and all of that. And I was intubated and tested for allergies. And a few weeks later, discharged. And I had, all these new allergies to foods. And this was something that my parents had never had experience with. I feel like it's kind of a generational thing in terms of we're seeing, the younger and younger generations have more and more allergies, but props to them. They adapted right away and they learned everything they could about allergies. They immediately got as many EpiPens they could. And my mom was hand making and home cooking all of my meals. And I was really only able to tolerate a few things. So we're talking like she was hand cranking potato pasta and I was just only able to eat a few vegetables. But over the course of elementary school, I outgrew a lot of those allergies, which was great. So I was able to, have fruit and vegetables and all sorts of meats. Yeah.
Sorry.
There we go. Anna's interrupting. Go, Anna. Go, Anna. Go. Wait, why are you guys not in love with each other anymore? There, talk about your relationship feels. Anyway, Anna, go.
I'm just bumping in because I have a quick question. So you had the allergic reaction at 2, right? Mm-hmm. And then how long was that like food sensitivity for? Until you were about 5? Is that what I heard correctly?
Yeah. So basically when I'd say around first grade, I started outgrowing allergies.
How did you find that out? Like, how did you, because like I would be terrified if I were a parent and my child had just had anaphylactic shock and went into the hospital. Like, how did your parents get brave enough, I guess, to let you eat anything other than the potato pasta? Because I would have helicoptered you so hard.
Yeah, so they didn't.
Raise your hand if you think Anna would be a helicopter parent.
Got me an allergist, and
Okay.
annually we would do allergy tests, and it started with blood draws. So some people do like a skin prick test, and you'll see how big the hives get, and that kind of indicates how allergic you are to that specific food. But for me, it was blood tests kind of from day one, just because I was so reactive. So the answer to that would be annual allergy blood tests to objectively see how I was doing.
As a child, what were your first memories of understanding that you had an allergy?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is going to people's birthday parties and bringing my own food. And so my mom did a great job of getting a really cute cake container that I could bring my own homemade cupcake, or I always had a bag on me. I've always left the house with a bag because I need my EpiPens, I need my Benadryl. And I think that those kind of early years, I'd say like kindergarten. But actually now that we're kind of discussing it, an earlier memory would be when we would go to the gym with my mom, we being like me and my siblings, and she would work out for an hour and, drop us off at the daycare at the gym. And she would have me put on this bright red penny that said, "Do not feed" on one side, and then allergies on the back.
Okay. That's kind of funny, I'm not gonna lie. Do not feed. Do not feed the child!
I was going to say, I need that shirt, but just the front.
Like, same.
Can you just imagine, like, walking down the street, do not feed?
Like a petting zoo.
Better than
Don't
Ozempic,
feed.
So I think that would have to be the earliest one, and that was pretty foolproof,
Yeah.
And, I have a young daughter, and a couple of her friends have significant nut allergies and bee sting allergies. And I think a lot of the fear for the parents, right, is that they try and control things as much as they can, right? The environment and the food, but it's just so scary when you send your kid off to that field trip and you hope that nobody brought the peanut butter sandwich, right? How would you describe if you knew kind of what your parents were experiencing and how you experienced that as a child yourself?
Sure.
Yeah, I think for as long as I can remember, my parents have instilled in me to be loud and proud about my allergies. And really just another word for that is advocating. So when I think back to kind of tangible examples of that, I'd say it was her marching into the elementary school with me before my first day of kindergarten and saying, "This is my daughter. She has anaphylactic allergies to these things, and she cannot be sitting with all the other kids at the cafeteria, at their lunch tables. We don't know what they're packing." So
I can see how this would be very isolating and very lonely, but I'm not seeing where the mystery is here, which was a complaint of the last couple episodes as well. Is like, so what was the mystery exactly? So
we need to create an allergy table. So I was the first member of the very important allergy table. It was kind of like a VIP lounge. You had to get like an invite, and you had to get, patted down and make sure that your lunch did not contain any allergens and everything. But throughout the years of elementary school, slowly but surely more and more kids needed to be seated at the allergy table as well. So I think in terms of, everybody knew that I had allergies, and that was really important for my parents. And also,
what is it? What is going on lately? And by lately, I mean within. Why is everybody getting more allergies these days? Like, my best friend has crazy allergies, don't get me wrong. And she always did have, like, she had asthma when we were in high school and stuff like that. But, like, it feels like there are more and more and more and more people, children especially, who have, like, not just allergies, but, like, life-threatening allergies. Like, what is going on? Because I honestly didn't even know what a peanut allergy was until after high school. Like, seriously. So what is going on that as a species, and is this like universal or is this just in the States? Why do our kids have so many fucking allergies these days? Like, what is this?
for me. So I think that fear and advocacy were probably the biggest staples. So my adolescence and, teenage years were really normal. It was just the fact that I had a handful of food allergies at that point. But, life was good. I was very active. I graduated high school and was recruited to row out of college and was just really looking forward to,
So like crew.
Yes, rowing. Yes, like on the water in a boat.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Anna, like doing a sport in college.
Cool.
And I live in the suburbs of Boston. So, rowing on the Charles River every day or 5 days a week for practice was
Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Who
dream.
are you?
So I was dating a boy senior year of high school, and for the first time in my life, I experienced being, I believe, gaslit or invalidated about my allergies. So basically, the first time that we went out to dinner together, I gave the restaurant and the waiter my whole spiel and saying very severe allergies, can't do any cross-contamination, like I will take the plainest thing on the menu. And after the waiter walked away, my boyfriend said, like, I feel like you're being a little bit dramatic about that. Like, I know other people with allergies and they don't make this much of a big deal out of it. Like, why do you do
Your allergies were that bad. Why were you eating out?
that? And, you know, it was kind of out of curiosity, but it made me feel bad. It made me feel like I was doing something wrong. And at that point, I was falling in love with him and I was young and dumb. But
We've all been there.
I basically was like, well, like I have really severe allergies. Like I can't even do skin tests. Like we have to do blood work. And I had given him the whole spiel too at the beginning of our relationship, how he couldn't have any of my anaphylactic allergens within, 24 hours of kissing me, or, maybe just the day of if we need to be a little bit more flexible. And then like ideally, if he could brush his teeth before, that'd be great. So I started noticing little things like,
if your allergies are that bad, why are you eating in a restaurant? Like, wow. I feel like that's highly risky. You can't even kiss your boyfriend without worrying about anaphylactic shock. You know what? There was a CSI episode about that, which was actually kind of interesting. You'd have to go watch it. I can't discuss it on YouTube.
his teeth or his mouth wouldn't really smell like toothpaste or mouthwash, which was different because in the beginning it did. And I brought it up to him and I said, are you brushing your teeth before we kiss and before I see you? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. I can't always remember to do it. So, I took it into my own hands and I said, okay, that's fine. Like I'll get some mouthwash and you can just swig that beforehand. And so I got a little travel bottle of mouthwash and I would ask him to do it. And he'd say, oh, it's so spicy and gross. Like I hate the taste of it. And I'd say, okay, I'll do it with you then. And it was just these little small infractions that kind of added up over time. And I think what happened was I became...
It was trash. I mean, that's what happened. I mean, sorry. I do not like this man.
Hey,
do not
your
like
words,
him.
not mine.
No one cares, Anna.
I will own them. You can get a little spicy in your mouth if you want to get a little bit spicy later. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
Rude.
so I got a little too lax about my allergies. I let my guard down. I really hate how much he influenced the way that I operated because I was so good and I was so regimented. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I developed this new kind of shame, feeling kind of weird or embarrassed about it. So I think that altered the way that I handled things. And yeah, I just got kind of sloppy. So going into my freshman year of college, it was like literally the first weekend and they had a student athlete event where, all the teams were there and all the upperclassmen were there. So you're a nervous freshman trying to make a good impression. And there was all these food trucks. And I remember distinctly recognizing one of the food trucks that I'd had like a year or earlier in that year. And I checked the ingredients. It was an ice cream truck. Checked the ingredients and I was like, okay, I know that I can have that thing from that menu because I've had it and I've asked and everything. And so I won't have to ask them if it's, what the ingredients are because I won't have to make a big deal and I won't have to call attention to myself and no one's going to think I'm dramatic. So that's exactly what I did. I ordered the same thing that I had gotten a few months prior. And I should have said, I have allergies. Can we please make sure there's no cross-contamination? And given my spiel that I had given hundreds of times, and I didn't. And I took a bite out of the ice cream and immediately started going into anaphylaxis. So that was a really interesting experience because I didn't know what anaphylaxis felt like because I hadn't gone into anaphylaxis since I was 2 years old. But I just remember this head rush and then feeling my throat start to tighten. And I looked at my friend who was a freshman who also rode on the same team as me in high school. So we knew each other well. And I said, oh my God, I think I'm going into anaphylaxis. And so she sat me down and I took my EpiPen. And yeah, went straight to the hospital. So it was kind of this gut feeling that it couldn't have been anything else. It was that kind of itchiness, the head rush, the tightening. And I just knew that I had to take my EpiPen. And it was scary because, I'd practiced with the practice EpiPens before, but actually putting the needle into my leg was the new experience.
My fear of needles is extreme. I've always worried that if I ever needed an EpiPen, that I would just die.
I feel like we have to acknowledge here, just because I know there's a lot of people listening who probably really relate to this idea of when you have a condition, self-care can feel selfish because it is sometimes all-encompassing, right?
The fuck did we get to self-care? Using an EpiPen to save your own life is not self-care, Anna. It's literal everyday life. Anyway. Maybe I'm just being super spicy. I don't know.
I feel like I need to call that out because I feel like we're often taught that these moments where we advocate for ourselves and our health are sometimes difficult.
No one asked, Anna. Like, what is the point of this? Why are you interrupting this poor girl? And where's the doctor? Why hasn't she said anything? Anna has interrupted twice because she just has to say something real fast, you guys. But, like, what? The doctor has laughed and called Anna rude. But past that, I've not heard her voice.
Or being unflexible. And I think that that's a really important narrative that we need to change. And I don't have any answers on how we change it, but I just wanted to call attention to it because it's something I've honestly been thinking about myself a lot recently.
Yeah, I think that one way that we can combat that is just talking about it. And I've I've stayed quiet about that part of my story, honestly, for, I started posting about my journey in March of 2024. And I did not mention anything related to the ex-boyfriend story until probably a month ago, for a few reasons. One, like, we had to get a lawyer involved when we broke up because there was a lot of, like, cyber stalking and threats and all of that. So I was just scared, as
Rightfully so.
yeah, many women are, and unfortunately can relate to that. But also I was ashamed too. And, feeling like I didn't want to blame him because looking at the facts, like, it was my fault. Like, I didn't say.
I'm not going to let you say that.
Okay.
I'm not going to let you say that because I feel like that isn't fair. You were in a situation where you were.
People are allowed to feel things, Anna. People are allowed to say things. And just because you don't agree with it, or because honestly what's happening here is Anna wants to seem like the all-supporting therapist here, and to do so, she's overstepping her bounds, I feel. If somebody, like, if I were telling a story and I was saying how I felt and I was explaining why I didn't do a certain thing because of a certain set of things, and somebody went, I'm not going to let you feel, I'm not going to let you say that. I'm not going to let you feel that way. Excuse you? Okay. You can go stand in the corner, I guess. It's rude.
Repeatedly reminded that your needs were difficult. I don't want you to put that blame on you. That is, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, but I can tell you.
Yeah, so shut up.
That is not your fault. And you were like 18 years old and this is all you'd ever known. And this one person you love wanted you to change this part of yourself so they could be completely in love with you, right? And I've been that girl and we've all done that. And
Nah, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. Okay, no, I take that back. I almost became Mormon, but I don't think I actually would have ever become Mormon. I think I just thought I wanted to be Mormon. So, okay, all right. I'll give it to you. All right.
that is just part of growth. That is not your fault. And I'm sorry. I'm not going to let you say that on here. No.
Thank you.
I'm not going to let you do that.
I don't like her language. I don't like the, no, I'm not going to let you do that. No. No, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. No, Anna, I'm not going to let you do that. No.
I appreciate that. I think it's something that I'm like, it's a part of my story that I still struggle with, but I know that it will do more good to just talk about it to help anybody else who's maybe feeling like they're in a similar situation, or if they, get into a similar situation, they can recognize it.
And as a parent, when I talk about that control issue and trying to control the environment for your child and remove all of the possible, barriers that can come your way, in the end, you are living by yourself, right? You're in college, and you can only hope that the systems you had put in place where it was just part of your everyday to bring your EpiPen with you, like that was the win, right? You did save yourself, and you saved yourself because you had built up this consistency, right? Of checking things. And so it really is a testament to, as I said, that consistency that you built up, that your family and your friends and your support system, did that. And I'm just glad that, again, you're going to come across people like your ex-boyfriend who will make you doubt whether you need to do that or that's necessary, make you feel bad. But in the end, you were the one who saved yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's honestly really therapeutic to hear. And I really appreciate that kind of outside perspective, because I think I also have a tendency to want to take control of my life, and I don't want to be a victim of my circumstances. So oftentimes I'm like, this happened to you because you didn't do XYZ. So what are you going to do to, make it better? But when you say that, I always forget there was a football player that same day who also had nut allergies, who also ended up in the hospital, who also ate from that exact same ice cream truck. So I'm not sure exactly what his story is in terms of what he spoke with them about, but that's a little detail that I tend to forget.
Well, Caroline, so now
Here's the thing, though. Caroline has apparently very severe allergies, and nobody knows that until she says something. So, like, her boyfriend's an asshole. Don't get me wrong. But both Dr. Nance and Anna are trying to be like, it's not your fault. It's not your... Well, no, it's not your fault. Like, you didn't go and order allergies at the bar. I would like 2 severe allergies and a chaser of anaphylactic shock, please. You didn't do that. But the problem is we don't walk around. We don't walk around with T-shirts that say "Do not feed" anymore. So unless you're gonna start doing that, oh man, you got captured by aliens. Dang it! You better not come back pregnant. Anyway, you kind of are responsible for letting people know, and it sounds like she's good about it. And I guess it's not her that I'm like getting after here. It's Nance and Anna. It's like they're trying to absolve her of responsibility, and it's like she has to take responsibility, because if she doesn't, no one knows, right? So I mean, like, afterwards, like with her boyfriend, she tells him, I have these allergies, and then he continues to be a jerkface about it. Well, you know, we like to get rid of him, but also she was like 18, so, you know, we do dumb shit when we're young. But like, Anna and Nance are both like, it's not your fault. Yeah, okay, but if I don't tell people, I'll die. So maybe get off my back. You know, I don't like it.
you have had your second major anaphylactic reaction. Take us through. You went to the
What's the mystery here, though?
ER. What happened when you were there?
Yeah, so I felt immediate relief from the EpiPen. So it worked, and that was all I needed, which is great. Went to the ER. They got me hooked up just in case I needed extra IV Benadryl or something like that. But the protocol when you have an allergic reaction is just to keep you for 6 hours, monitor your vitals, make sure everything looks good. So I did fine. Within 6 hours, nothing else flared up. So they released me, and I went back to school. I remember the next morning I woke up at like 5 a.m. and I remember just feeling this kind of like overwhelming tightness in my throat and my chest. And I just kind of wrote it off as like, oh, it's probably my reaction just still kind of triggered, but maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's just anxiety, honestly. But it was just getting worse throughout the lift. And then the feeling never went away for a few days. And then my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend, came and visited that weekend, and he kissed me. And I didn't immediately go into anaphylaxis, but a few hours later, after I ate some stuff and like, I don't know, drank some water and who knows, I did end up going into anaphylaxis again. And it was to something that I had eaten several times before.
I think Nova's pregnant with an alien baby. Gosh darn it, that is not part of the plan, Nova. Dang it. Now I gotta make room for this alien baby. You don't have enough space for babies yet right now, Nova.
Like in the weeks prior that I'd had throughout my whole life. And I wasn't convinced that it was cross-contamination or anything like that. Had to take an EpiPen, like ambulance to the ER again. And my mom came out to visit again, and she said, like, what's going on? And I was like, I have no idea. Like, honestly, I didn't eat anything that I'm allergic to. I checked the ingredients. Like, I know that it wasn't the food. And then a few days later, I was only eating single ingredient foods at college. I was eating just from the allergy kitchen, which was an amazing resource that the college provided to anybody with allergies.
That's pretty cool.
And was just feeling those allergic symptoms. Ended up going into anaphylaxis again. I can't remember what I ate that made me go into anaphylaxis, but my mom came out to the ER again. And luckily, also, I should say that my hometown is only an hour away from the college that I went to. So very accessible, which is great. But she basically, as soon as I was released, she brought me back to our house, and she was like, we need to figure out what's going on. Like, we're going to go see your allergist. And at the time, these ER doctors didn't really know what was going on. I told them, yeah, I was just here like last week with these allergic symptoms, with this allergic reaction. And they were basically like, okay, I think it's a heightened immune response, like, but we're not really sure. Just really try to just be really safe about the food that you're eating and that kind of thing. So I kind of felt like I was going crazy a little bit because I didn't know what was causing it. And I became very scared.
Do you think the physicians thought you just weren't paying enough attention to what you were eating?
Possibly. I think that is probably what they thought.
Not to be a dick, but she did say, I don't remember what I ate that day. Granted, I have no idea how old she is right now, and that was when she was in college. So that was a very long time ago for her to have, recall that well of. But I mean, if she's always like, I can't remember what I ate.
I mean, I was just like a freshman who was at college for the first time, and
Yeah, but you have like deathly allergies. Like, I've not had them. I don't, like, my allergies are seasonal. It's just pollen, that kind of a thing. And I get leaky eyes and snuffles. Like, it's nothing. I just like, I feel like if I had an allergy that was potentially lethal, I feel like I would be keeping track of what I ate. I mean, when I first started getting migraines, I kept a diary because I needed to know what foods were triggering my migraines. So, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like if it's something that's potentially going to murder you, you might want to keep better track of it. But again, we do dumb shit when we're young. So we are young and immortal.
who knows, maybe I was stressed out, or maybe I wasn't being careful about the dining hall, or I don't know. So I was back home and my boyfriend came over to visit, and I ate dinner, which was totally safe, homemade,
We don't like this guy.
like single ingredient, and I did okay with that. And then he gave me a kiss, and I was like, whoa, don't kiss me. I don't know what's causing me to have these allergic reactions. And then within like 2 minutes, I went into anaphylaxis again. And
He's literally toxic for you. He's literally toxic.
I think I was allergic to him.
Yeah. Well, and your body was like, if you're not going to recognize, we're going to make it real obvious.
Anna, we get that you can't have a relationship, but it's okay.
Boyfrienditis.
Yep. Oh my gosh. When I was in these episodes of subsequent anaphylaxis, going into reactions where I wasn't really sure what was triggering them, and I was being super safe about what I was eating and all of that, oftentimes I was seeing, different EMTs, but I was getting familiar with the emergency room doctor because I was ending up in the ER multiple times in the span of just a month. And she really didn't have any answers. All she could really provide me was, refilling my EpiPen prescription, offering Benadryl, and keeping our fingers crossed that these reactions would settle down. And, at first she hypothesized that maybe I was stressed. It was my first month at college, and I was also exercising a lot because of the rowing team and a whole host of things, that maybe it was a perfect storm. Perhaps there was mold in the dorms, or, it could be all these different factors, which was all just to say, hey, I'm not really sure what's causing this. Hopefully it'll go away, which was invalidating in a sense, but also scary because nobody could explain what was going on.
How is that invalidating? I mean, I get that it's frustrating, but like, it's not like she was like, oh, it's all in your head. She was just like, I don't know. I got nothing. So I don't know.
So this is all just to say that September and October of my freshman year, I was basically in and out of the hospital a bunch until middle of October when I was home. He'd kissed me. I ended up in an ambulance. I ended up in Boston Children's Hospital, told them the whole thing, and they, believed me right away. And they said, okay, like, you're going to the ICU. We need to figure out what's going on here. So I was at the ICU at Boston Children's for about 2 weeks in October. And there we deduced that I was triggered by food. So anytime I ate was really when we were seeing the mast cell symptoms or the allergic reactions happening. And it was just food trial after food trial, which is basically like, trying a small bit of a single ingredient food, seeing if you can tolerate it, seeing if you have any allergic reactions. And then if you tolerate it, great, then you slowly increase the amount. If you don't, then you move on to the next food. So
I'm mildly surprised they didn't put her on an elimination diet, but that's just me. I would think that would be the first thing to do, would be elimination diet, and then do this, the little introduction. And maybe they did, and she just doesn't mention it. Like, maybe it's just like she doesn't even remember. My point is, it's entirely possible that is what happened. I'm just surprised she didn't say that, I guess. I don't know.
Food after food, I was failing. I was losing weight, losing energy. I was so confused. I was so scared. And by the end of the 2 weeks, I was only able to tolerate oatmeal, eggs, and bacon. But the overwhelming consensus through all the doctors who were doing rounds and all the nurses and everything was basically that this should go away in a couple months. And if it doesn't, then I might have this thing called mastocytosis, but I would need to get like a specialist to get that diagnosis, and that takes a few months. But honestly, if I just take some antihistamines, it'll probably go away in like 2 months. So in the fall...
Really? Is that how allergies work? I don't know. I don't have, like I said, I don't have severe allergies, but I feel like once you have them, you have them, especially if it's something like food related. I can see them being like, don't eat those foods, but apparently if she's oatmeal, bacon, and whatever the other thing was, I mean, that's a very exciting diet. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Of 2017, my freshman year of college, when I was having these repeated anaphylactic reactions, I really didn't have any answers. All I knew was that there was 3 foods that I wasn't having allergic reactions to, and that I should take some antihistamines. And that was kind of the direction that I had at that time.
So, Caroline, this is your freshman year of college, right? Not ideal to be going in and out of the ER when you're trying to go to frat parties and football games and your own varsity sport. So tell us what it was like being a college student and having a severe illness.
It sucked a lot. I think that also my expectations for college were really high. For one thing, my mom also went to the college I went to. It's called Holy Cross, and she had an amazing experience. She had so many hilarious stories, and I just knew it was going to be the best 4 years of my life. I remember on my official visit for rowing, calling her when my, host went to use the shower. I called her and I said, "Mom, this is the one. Like, I'm coming here. This is the school for me." And it all just felt like all the pieces were coming into place. I felt like I was going to meet my best friends, make the best memories. So I think to have the realities of chronic illness and the shock of getting sick immediately hit within the first week of college was really, really difficult, because everything that I was excited for was no longer on my radar. Rowing, which was arguably the most important part of my life in high school, became such an optional frame of mind for me, because somebody who was concerned about what their VO2 max heart rate could be was now concerned with just trying to breathe and doing body checks on how tight is my throat right now. Is my throat tight enough for me to take an EpiPen? Do I think I can get by with a Benadryl? How about just a puff of an inhaler? I completely felt foreign to my body. I was somebody who had heard from multiple coaches that the worst thing that can happen is you pass out on the erg, which is the rowing machine, and we pick you up and that's it. Like, your body will tell you when it's too much. To now, I was somebody who the smallest piece of food, which I thought was safe, could kill me. So
I mean, it does sound like your body was telling you it's too much. It's just, unfortunately, everything was too much.
It was like I don't even really know how to describe it. It was like it was like somebody just completely threw out the whole book of my life and was like, actually, we're starting new, and you're not going to know anything about your body. You're going to lose your capacity for socializing and lose your curiosity and excitement for life. I really became scared and honestly depressed. My freshman year was probably the hardest year of my life. I was waiting to see a specialist for about 8 months. And during that time, I was really holding on to hope that things would get better, and they weren't really getting better. And I was also trying to just keep up with my classes. I was trying to keep up with, if I saw somebody that I recognized, smiling at them, even if that was not what I had the capacity to do. Anytime that I saw somebody that knew me and they'd say, "Oh my gosh, how are you? Like, I haven't seen you." And trying to figure out how much I should tell them, because at that point, I commuted back and forth from school my entire freshman year with my mom. I was lucky enough where, she didn't work at the time, so she was able to drive me back and forth, but I really felt like a ghost. So, all the little interactions that you have with people, like in your hallway or in the communal bathroom or going to the mail office, I didn't have any of those experiences, because all I was doing was willing myself to get out of the car, kind of walking into class feeling like I was made of concrete, and then sitting down and trying to focus on a lecture while I felt like my throat was tightening, or while I felt like my face was flushing, or while I was trying to, hide the hives all over my chest. So I was really, really just trying to kind of make it through each day. And
surviving.
Yeah, exactly.
You're surviving.
Yeah. So I didn't have the luxuries of worrying about who liked who, or where the next party was, or if the coach was being really hard on the team, or all the problems that I thought I was going to have were.
But you could still row. You were still on the team, it sounds like. I don't know. I mean, I get that it's not the ideal college experience, especially for somebody who was like hoping for that stereotypical college experience, but like, I don't know, man. Sometimes, I mean, we don't all get to. Not everybody. Life's not fair, I guess, is what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way. And I know that sucks, but I'm still not. I guess the mystery is she's not entirely sure what's causing the reactions.
Absolutely minuscule.
I think that
Excuse me.
is so relatable to so many people, kind of no matter how large your illness or disability is, right? Is that feeling of being left out. And what was interesting is that when you were younger, you were able, probably because of the help from your parents and support system, to make it seem like that was a special, unique thing for you. And now you're more on your own and you feel the weight of those differences and being left out. Now, obviously, you also were much sicker at the time, so it's a whole nother thing to deal with. But I think for a lot of kids who are going to college, and just the fact that they are going is an achievement, right? I've spoken to more than a few high school seniors who have POTS, and they don't even think college is in the cards, or living by themselves is even possible. So just to hear your story that you were still doing it, right? It might not have been what you thought it was going to be, but you still did it. It's still an inspiration to a lot of people.
What is the point of this? I mean, look. The doctor has not explained what anaphylactics is. So, like, unless you already know what it is, which I happen to, and I'm sure most people might, I don't know. It's not that, I don't know. Maybe you don't. But, like, the doctor hasn't explained anything about any of these medical tests or anything medical. And so far, it's just been her and Anna, like, hug boxing this girl, and the girl's not really asking for that. She's just telling her story. But the doctor and Anna are both like, "Oh, don't say mean things about yourself." And the doctor's now like, "You should be happy. You should be proud that you just made it to college. That is the achievement in its own right." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean it is, but that's not the point of the story, is it?" Like, she's not asking for pity. What's going on? Like, what is the point of this?
Agreed.
I think it's totally, like, my circumstances helped a ton. Like, I think if I went to school, even an hour further away, I might have taken my freshman year to just focus on my health. But it was the fact that my mom made herself available so quickly. She said, like, "We can do this. If you want to do this, I will help you do this." And I also credit my siblings. I have two younger siblings who were in middle school and high school at the time. And they lost their mom that year, in a way, because she was getting up with me at 6 a.m. to get me to my 8 a.m. on time, sitting at campus all day without a complaint. We would get home at like 8 p.m. It was just crazy. So I also don't know how she did it. She's the heart and glue of this house, and she kept on keeping on. And I think that is where I learned how to do that. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without her. But yeah, I think my freshman year, like, I am really proud. Like, I only dropped one class and I stayed as optimistic as I could in front of other people. I think that's all I kind of had the capacity for, but I am proud of myself for finishing that year, for sure. And I'm glad that I did, but it could not have been done without the help of my family.
And now I'm crying because your mom is just an angel. Like,
Okay, whatever. You're right, Hannah. It's all about you.
Yes.
I'm so glad you had that support. I'm so glad that she was there for you.
Yeah.
All right, so you've now had multiple
right.
anaphylactic reactions. You are getting by, with your EpiPens and Benadryl and inhalers, but what happens next?
Louder than anybody else, my allergist was the doctor who said that this could probably be mast cell activation or mastocytosis, and we need to get it checked out and diagnosed by a specialist. I saw her after an 8-month waiting period, and my allergist had also given us a heads up that it could be over a year.
Yikes.
So when we heard it was going to be 8 months, that was kind of better than we anticipated. And I also was, in the back of my mind, I had also had the voices of, the ER docs or people who weren't really sure what was going on, that this might go away in a couple months. I might be totally fine. I might end up just canceling that appointment. So I wasn't waiting for that to be my saving grace. So this was the spring of my freshman year, gearing up for finals, and I was so ready to be done with the year. There had been a couple times where, in the spring semester, I had to leave class and just cry in the bathroom because I was so exhausted and just so tired of muscling through it. So tired of my diet, so tired of not having friends, and so tired of not knowing how to explain what was going on. People knew, obviously, all of our fall of freshman year, I was in and out of the hospital. In between all the anaphylactic reactions in the fall and then actually seeing the specialist and getting the diagnosis in the spring, my mom and I were definitely playing detective. And I remember compiling a list of all these potential diagnoses. So I could ask the doctor, if it was this, okay, if it's not that, then is it this? And just kind of go through those lists because I wanted an answer and I wanted a diagnosis. Even if it went away in a couple months and everything was resolved, I wanted to know why it was happening in the first place. And if they could deduce, why it all started too. Because I was kind of, I'd say prior to the fall of 2017, the fall of my freshman year, I kind of operated under the assumption that you go to the doctor, they tell you what's wrong, they give you medicine, and you're cured. Or at least you have relief. And I think I had a huge kind of loss of innocence or moment of reckoning when I realized my freshman year of college that they don't know. They don't always know what's going on. They don't always know how to help. Even if, they're trying their best, there are such things as, medical mysteries. Throughout my countless hospitalizations that freshman fall, I had so many residents and nurses come in, look at my chart, get the debrief, and basically say, oh my gosh, wow, you're a unique case. Gosh, we don't know what to do with you. I've never seen anything like this. And it's really worrying because you think that there's a precedent for these things. You think that, gosh, there must have been somebody before me who's come in here that you've been able to fix. I mean, gosh, like these people were some of the smartest people. Like we're talking Boston Children's Hospital. That's a very, very, highly ranked hospital with really, really good medical professionals. And to think that you are at kind of pinnacle care, but to still not have any answers is really, really terrifying because, I mean, gosh, what do I know? I'm just 18 years old. I hated chemistry in high school. There's no way I'm going to figure this out, right? So I think it's really grim to watch countless medical professionals say how unique your case is or how mysterious or, wow, you're stumping us with this one. It's like, shoot, I thought I was coming here to get some, but I really turned a corner for the better in April of 2018. April of 2018 changed a lot for me because that's when I got my diagnosis. So I got in to see Dr. Maria Castells, who no longer sees patients because she's doing full-time research, but she is a huge name in the mast cell community. And I remember going into that doctor's appointment with my mom and being so ready to just I don't even know. We had so much kind of frustration and anger built up, I think, from all those past ER visits without getting many answers that we were going to leave there with an answer. And she basically did a clinical examination. She told me all the tests she was going to run. And she said, we haven't even done the test yet, but I'm pretty confident that you have mast cell activation. And I'm going to put you on this medication. This is a mast cell stabilizer. This is an antihistamine. Like these are things that have been proven to work. And she basically also took the time to explain mast cell activation to me. And I had spent the fall and the winter with my mom Googling and going on Facebook support groups, anything from mastocytosis to eosinophilic esophagitis to anxiety or like asthma. It could have been a whole range of things. And for her to sit down and say, this is mast cell activation syndrome was extremely validating. My mom and I both started crying, actually. It was a mixture of, okay, the relief of you have a diagnosis, you have answers, and we have a treatment plan. But also in the same sentence, she said, this is a chronic condition. There is no cure, but there are things we can do to help you live a better life.
So I want to give kind of a little analogy for people who might have never heard of mast cell activation syndrome or MCAS, as sometimes people.
Oh, thank God. I didn't think you had a purpose on this podcast other than to just say platitudes.
Call it. But it's like if you have a friend who comes over and they want to help clean up after dinner, but instead of just washing the dishes, they start vacuuming the floor and dusting the whole apartment, and they're doing too much for no reason.
I say that's one of the best friends you've ever had. You need to invite that friend over much more often.
Right? And that's basically what is going on in mast cell. They're supposed to be helping you guard against infection, but instead they are just going off and causing, havoc on your healthy body.
So is mast cell always food related, or is it related to other things as well?
It's related to a bunch of different things. So it depends on the...
Are they saying mast cell or mast cell? I can't tell.
Person. Depends on the patient. Bioindividuality is alive and well when it comes to mast cell activation. For some people, they are...
She's saying mast activation or mass activation, because it's really not helping. But I don't know.
are most triggered by cleaning chemicals like bleach or laundry detergent. Other people are really triggered by fragrances like perfumes or candles.
Okay, hey, hi, hello there, and welcome back to An Anthropologist Listens to Glitter and Lasers podcast. And we were halfway through Caroline's story when I had to take a break, so we're gonna pick up. So if you've noticed that there's a costume change, my big goal here is to smush everything together, so there will be, I'm assuming, heavy editing throughout this entire thing, because I don't want another 4-hour episode. But I don't know, some of you guys really seem to like it, and it seemed to do well, so I don't know. Y'all surprise me at what you'll sit and listen to. I don't know if I could do it, but here we are. I say that as I'm the one literally sitting here and listening to this whole entire thing. All right, we're 38 minutes into an hour and 13 minutes. Let's get Caroline's story in the bank. Let's go, everybody. It is sped up a little bit. It is sped up.
Food like me. I'm also extremely triggered by environmental allergens like dogs and cats. Activation. For some people, they are most triggered by cleaning chemicals like bleach or laundry detergent. Other people are really triggered by fragrances like perfumes or candles. People are triggered by food like me. I'm also extremely triggered by environmental allergens like dogs and cats and mold. So it really just depends on the person. And I'm not sure why exactly our triggers present so differently, but yeah, it varies.
Yes, I interviewed a woman who was allergic to water and had to live on IV hydration. Just really, really awful, And then
Okay, that lady's a medical mystery. I mean, clearly it's not the water. It's whatever's in the water. But holy crap, can you imagine? Could she drink, could she drink alcohol? Can you imagine? You'd have to go around with the thing in your arm all day long. Wow. Anyway. Your poor kidneys.
Other kind of kicker is that you may not even know what will set off. So it's not as if I know I have a strawberry allergy, so I'm not going to eat any strawberries, right? You might have been eating strawberries your whole life, and all of a sudden you eat a strawberry and now you have a reaction. Yeah. So you can't predict, what is safe and what's not. And that's what makes it so difficult to treat.
So that doctor's appointment was pivotal. I think for my mental health, for my physical health, basically, as soon as I started the medications, I felt relief and I was able to introduce more and more foods. And by the fall of that following year, so the fall of my sophomore year, I was eating basically all single ingredient foods and back to school and back to living a more normal life. So things got a lot better in April of 2018. And thank God they did, because I don't know what I would have done if I had to keep muscling through. And I know that in the scheme of, when we're talking about the world of chronic illness, an 8-month waiting period for diagnosis is not long. People go a decade without having answers. So I'm extremely privileged to be living near a medical hub like Boston and to be able to get in to see this doctor. But I think that there's a lot of discourse around, what if a diagnosis is good or bad, or, don't let the diagnosis define you, and you are more than just your illness. But it's also, I think, really important to be validated and to have answers and to get the treatment that is subscribed for people with those conditions.
And when you got the diagnosis and you said you felt relief, did it help also with your relationship with other people that now you had something to tell them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could tell them what I had. They could Google it if they wanted to, but also I had an elementary understanding of what mast cell activation was. So I could tell them, everybody has mast cells. They're just...
I think she's saying mass, but a lot of people don't pronounce T's, especially at the end of words, at least here in the States. So it's entirely possible she is saying mast, and that's just the T's just not getting enunciated, which is fine. I just want to know which one she's saying.
Allergic cells, and they're allergy cells, and they're kind of like policemen. They identify the bad guys, the pathogens, the infection, the allergen, and they attack them. They go after them. They arrest them. But my mast cells are special. They are working overtime. Kind of like you were saying earlier, Dr. Nance. They are doing the most. They are flagging down, pulling over every car, and we don't really know why. They can't give us a good explanation, but they're working overtime, and
There's a bit of a political statement that could be made right there. Something about papers, please, but here we go.
Basically was able to tell people that I'm receiving treatment that helps calm down my mast cells and help them know that they don't need to be triggered by everything. So going into my sophomore year of college, I felt like myself again. I was not as symptomatic. I was on a lot of medications. I think another big thing was I was able to get a disability letter for accommodations. So for one thing, like I lived in a single apartment dorm in college where I could control, there was nobody in my bathroom using things that contained nuts. There was nobody using things in my microwave that would contain like nuts or sesame.
I was going to say, what are you doing in the bathroom with nuts? And then I got to thinking about like skincare and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I used to have like an apricot seed face rub back in the day. And I don't think I have anything right now. But yeah, cat help you if you have a cat hair allergy, because you may never come over here ever. So yeah, I guess that does make a little bit of sense.
Or just any of my allergens. So being able to tell people what I needed was really pivotal as well, and to kind of not hold back when asking for accommodations. Like, for example, I do like an infusion once a week and an injection every other week. And those things make me really tired and I sleep for like 3 hours after them. And I'm going to need an extension because, that person had a few more hours than I did and I can't pull an all-nighter because it'll be detrimental to my health. So those sort of things. And the Office of Accessibility at Holy Cross was really, really amazing with helping me with that and all my professors and everything. So sophomore year was a really great experience. I was able to be more social. I just had more energy. I felt like I was an advocate for myself and I had answers, which was amazing. I slowly but surely got more comfortable and kind of, was able to expand my bubble. So eating more and more foods, starting to go out to restaurants and ordering the safest thing on the menu, but being able to have that kind of normalcy, which was really nice. And yeah, I started to kind of have those normal college girl problems. Like, does this boy like me back? Oh my gosh, this professor's being so annoying this week. Like those luxuries it was amazing. Flash forward to the spring of my sophomore year and I decided to expand my bubble a bit more and leave the country. So me and my friend went to the Caribbean and we went for...
I don't mean to sound dismissive because she clearly has some very like restrictive allergies. I'm not trying to say she doesn't, because she's obviously had problems. She's ended up in the hospital on more than one occasion. She's constantly going into anaphylactic shock, it sounds like. How many EpiPens are you allowed to have, like, take in a row? I don't know. I only worked with one person who ever needed an EpiPen, and she never carried it with her. So I don't know why that was a thing. She's like, yeah, if I get stung by a bee, I'll just die. I'm like, all right, I guess, because we don't keep them in the first aid kit. So anyway, but like, it doesn't sound that bad. I mean, I hate to be like that, but she's like, yeah, I went to this college and they were completely accommodating. Hey, that's cool and all. Like, that's great. A lot of people don't get that, and like, I'm not trying to be like. And she does say, I understand I'm very privileged to be able to do X, Y, and Z. So she's at least aware of it. And so I can't really get on her too bad. But now she's like, I'm going to go travel now. And, I was on the rowing team and just all of these things that are just very upper class, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not trying to take away from it. I'm just making note of it. It just doesn't sound that bad, I guess. I don't know. Considering there are people that, like, they can't leave their house. I mean, that's kind of the level that I was expecting here. Like, girl in a bubble kind of a thing. This is just, like, really gnarly. I'm allergic to literally everything. What was that Milhouse quote? I'm allergic to my own snot. It's one of those kind of things, but like, Milhouse still has a life and she still has a life. I mean, she's dating, she's traveling, she has friends, she's obviously doing shit at college. So like, I don't know. I have sympathy for her in that this is not an easy thing to live with. Like, I don't have allergies at all, really. But my best friend does. And like, she's going through some adjustment where she's trying to figure out ways of lessening said allergies, and I don't know if it's working. I really don't understand. She's getting shots and like But it seems like everything now is aggravating her allergies to the point where she needs like her inhaler all the time. And it wasn't this bad when we were kids, so it's clearly getting worse over time. So like I feel the sympathy for her. And as somebody who has someone in my life who I do care about who has very similar allergies, I don't know if she's ever, I don't think she's like anaphylactic shock level, but I don't know. She always has her inhaler with her. But it's just like, it's not that bad. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being, maybe it is, and I'm just being insensitive. I don't know. Again, I don't have allergies. I just, my dearest friend does, and I don't know. I feel sorry for her. I do, but at the same time, I'm just like, what is the point? And on top of it all, Caroline's got her diagnosis, right? She's been diagnosed with, I forget, it was in the last episode and I've forgotten because it's been days. But she has her diagnosis. So that was like 10 minutes ago in the podcast. What's the rest of this podcast going to be about? Like, where's the mystery? The mystery was done solved. What are we doing? Anyway.
After weekend, because we have a nice long break with our Catholic school. So we got down there and we'd stocked up on a bunch of just safe food for me and made sure we were in like a safe place, that I wasn't allergic to anything there. And we went out to dinner that first night and I told the restaurant about my allergies and gave them my whole spiel and then ordered single ingredient stuff on the menu. And I took like 2 bites of it and went into anaphylaxis. And that was one of the worst feelings ever. I knew exactly what was happening. And I was in a country that was so far away from my home.
Wonder if it was like a seed oil thing or something. I don't entirely understand what she means when she's saying single ingredient items, but I know most restaurants, like, they cook in oil, they you know, there's seasonings and stuff. So I don't know. Why do you even go to restaurants? Like, here's my thing that's really puzzling me more than anything about this whole story. Like, she talks about how terrible and how awful these things are, and yet, why are you going to the restaurant? You know, there's a good chance that you're going to have anaphylactic shock, even with your whole spiel to give to the waiters. But, like, why even risk it, you know? Most restaurants, if you tell them you have some kind of massive allergy like this, but you're coming with people, they'll accommodate you, right? I can't see a restaurant being like, no, you can't bring your own food, even though you have a party of 5 who's coming with you. I don't see that happening. It might. I've never been turned away for allergies. I did have a friend who has a seed oil allergy. And let me tell you what, that restaurant bent over backwards and did cartwheels to make sure that there were things that they could eat off the menu. Like, it was weird, but it was nice. I mean, they were pleasant about it. They weren't nasty. They had like a whole separate menu. It was really kind of cool. Anyway, so my point is, I guess, is that restaurants are prepared for this to a degree. I mean, obviously she's allergic to like everything. Again, why are you going out to restaurants? I'm not saying don't go out with your friends. I'm just like, maybe restaurants and like eateries aren't your thing. You can't trust the ingredients. You don't know how the food's been prepared. You're clearly very sensitive. Why are you even risking it? But whatever. I you know, I'm also not a college-age girl, so
far away from my doctors. And I took my EpiPen, was rushed to the hospital. And once everything was, stabilized, I looked at my friend and, she was there right by my bedside. And I said, I just got my life back. This can't be happening. I can't do this again. And I was just devastated. And for me, that anaphylactic reaction was very similar to the one I had my freshman year, where it triggered a series of other anaphylactic reactions in which my list of safe foods was getting smaller and smaller. Granted, we didn't have the ex-boyfriend, which was great. So we don't know, maybe there was fewer exposures.
Love that we replaced the toxic boyfriend with a supportive friend. So, at least we're in a slightly better situation.
That's right.
Still terrible, but it's slightly better.
That's right. And I basically was relapsing. So
I forgot about the trash boyfriend.
The end of April and the entirety of May was very similar to September and October of my freshman year. So April.
Okay, unrelated. I would hope Erwin has a crush on Nova. That's his wife. I paired the two of you up because I thought you were a cute couple. I would hope you like each other. Jeez. Dang it, Erwin. It took you this long? You've been married for basically a sim year. Come on, man.
In May of my sophomore year, I was in and out of the hospital. having allergic reactions to more and more
yeah,
food,
that's right.
only down to a few foods. As soon as I got back home to Boston, I
On the
was
rocky road.
trying foods to see if I could tolerate more and more. And I think the kind of oh shit moment was I was tolerating watermelon okay for the first couple weeks after the Caribbean. And then my mom had gone grocery shopping. She came home with a watermelon and I cut into it and it was yellow. And I was like, oh, Mom, did you know you bought a yellow watermelon? Like, I didn't even know those existed. And she was like, oh my gosh, no, sorry. And I was like, it's probably fine.
Yellow watermelon is good, but apparently that's enough of a difference. So it's a chemical thing.
So I cut out a slice and I tried it because I was like, okay, this has got to be the closest thing to watermelon. Like, it's fine. I've been eating other fruits too. Like, I was eating an apple or, a banana a day. And I immediately had so much rashing and hives and swelling and just discomfort. Basically, I immediately had an allergic reaction. It wasn't necessarily anaphylactic, but it felt pre-anaphylactic. And that was when I had a moment of, oh my God, I'm really, really reactive right now. And then a few days later, I was trying to go to sleep and I hadn't eaten anything in like 6 hours. But my throat just felt like it kept closing and closing, and I just felt like I wasn't getting enough oxygen. So that's when I took the EpiPen and we went to the emergency room. And at that point, I was really only able to tolerate like sweet potato, carrots, and oatmeal and chicken, I believe.
Of the things to tolerate, they're fairly healthy. Sweet potatoes, carrots, oatmeal, and chicken. But the watermelon threw you for a loop. So it's not... I don't know. So I guess this is the mystery. Here we go. The mystery is, what the hell are you actually allergic to? We're not saying you don't have the masked whatever. We just don't know what the hell you're allergic to. All right, Caroline, tell us more about how your life is falling apart. I do feel sorry for her.
So once I realized that, oh my gosh, I'm not tolerating any fruit just because I ate the wrong watermelon, like shit, this is going downhill quickly. And my list of foods that aren't triggering me is decreasing quickly. And by June, I was only able to eat oatmeal. By June of 2019, we were about a month and a half out of that reaction from the Caribbean, but I had had subsequent hospitalizations to other food that I was not allergic to, but was having anaphylactic allergic reactions to. And I was only tolerating oatmeal. At the time, I was back at the ICU at Boston Children's, and they basically were like, we can't discharge you on this diet. Like, you're just going to come back in being malnourished. And I mean, even at that time, I'm 5'8", and I think a healthy weight for me is usually like 135 or 140. And I was down to like 105. And I was bruising so easily. I was just gray. Like, I just looked sick. So they had started discussions about doing like a central line to just get the nutrients straight into my heart. But that was a really scary prospect just because there's the possibility for so many complications. And you're just...
Okay, see, now this is awful. Now I'm like, oh, Jesus. I think that's what I was... No, it's not. Keep going, lady.
Is that a feeding tube or is that like something else? A central line? What is that?
It can be a form of feeding. So you can either have feeding through your veins or through your gut. And so traditionally people think of a feeding tube either, through your nose or directly inserted into your intestine. But there is
Okay, I think of the one going in your intestine. They put feeding tubes down your nose while you're awake? Yeesh.
form of nutrition called TPN, which provides the nutrients straight into your heart.
Oh, wow.
Into the bloodstream.
Mm-hmm. Science is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
yeah, that sounds really cool. I mean, I'm glad it's keeping her alive, but holy crap. Holy crap, right into your heart? That's what I'm looking for. Into your heart? Ay.
Theory was I was clearly being triggered by digestion in some regard. Mm-hmm. So to kind of maybe pass over all of that and just go straight into the veins was the idea. But when we were talking about doing a central line, I was really scared about the complications and also how heavily I'd be relying on medical equipment. So basically, the day-to-day becomes very, very complicated. Everything has to be sterile. There's so much equipment. There's so many tubes and little attachments. And I knew how much I had to do just to manage my medication regimen of just pills. I really was scared of the prospect of being that reliant.
Has no one looked at the medications she's on? Like, she hasn't mentioned anything. Well, this is the first I've heard her mention pills. And secondly, she hasn't mentioned anything about them adjusting her medication. I feel like that would be like one of the first things you'd want to do.
On something like a central line. So I basically asked if we could just keep trying food. And I asked every single doctor that came in who was doing rounds, regardless of, if I'd seen them before or not, if there was any other thing they can think of or any food they could think of. Like, what's the least allergenic food that comes to the top of mind, even if they weren't specialized in allergy, just trying to pick everyone's brains. When we were talking about doing a central line, I was really scared about the complications and also how heavily I would be relying on medical equipment. So
I didn't do that. I didn't back it up. It did that on its own.
basically, the day-to-day becomes very, very complicated. Everything has to be sterile. There's so much equipment. There's so many tubes and little attachments. And I knew how much I had to do just to manage my medication regimen of just pills. I really was scared of the prospect of being that reliant on something like a central line. So I basically asked if we could just keep trying food. And I asked every single doctor that came in who was doing rounds, regardless of, if I'd seen them before or not, if there was any other thing they can think of or any food they could think of. Like, what's the least allergenic food that comes to the top of mind, even if they weren't specialized in allergy, just trying to pick everyone's brains. But then this one doctor who typically worked with toddlers and babies.
Air. Nope, not even air. Never mind. Poor thing.
Was doing rounds and she got briefed on the situation and she said, okay, this is really weird and let me know if you're open to it, but we have hypoallergenic toddler formula. And I was like, okay, I'm open to that. Like, I'm open to anything. And after a series of failed food trials, after the course of a few weeks, I tried this hypoallergenic formula and it's basically, it looks like a protein powder. You mix it with water. I had like 1 ounce of it, just took a sip. And I remember there being like several doctors in the room, several nurses. I think the social worker was there. Like, everybody was there. And I was kind of just waiting for the reaction to hit because that's kind of what had been happening. And to my pleasant surprise, it went down totally fine. And it was a huge, huge relief for the whole medical team, for my family, for myself. And over the course of a few days, we were building up tolerance or, building up the volume of that formula. So by the time I was discharged, I was on about half a can a day of powder. When she had that idea, I honestly was up for anything. So I was fine with the prospect of drinking baby formula. But I do remember a moment where, the baby formula went well. I had trialed the formula and it was no reaction, which was great. And I was increasing the amount that I was taking. And I do remember sipping it and it just tasted so bad. And it was a few days after it had been a success. And so I was just a little bit beyond the survival mode of like, I don't care what this tastes like as long as it has sustenance. Like, I'm so hungry. And just being like, oh my God, I'm 20 years old and drinking baby formula right now.
I mean, that's how Pedialyte got into the rehydration market. It was originally for babies. And now everybody drinks it. It's akin to Gatorade. So I don't know. You're blazing a trail here, girlfriend. Also, why would you even risk it? I can't imagine it tastes good. I remember my cousin was on formula. She had to be on some special kind of formula. Probably not this, but some other formula. And boy, I tell you, that thing stank.
It tastes really bad. Like, this sucks. And that's oatmeal and hypoallergenic formula to this day for the last 5.5 years. That has been my nourishment. It has all the calories I need to survive. It has all the vitamins.
Holy crap, really? 5 years? Wow. God, wow. Well, I mean, if that solves the problem. Wow, you could never have any other food ever. Huh.
Minerals, nutrients. Basically, it's nutritionally complete. So that is what I live off of. And the oatmeal just happens to be kind of the solid substance form, which is good for, bowel movements and stuff like that.
So you really do only just eat oatmeal?
And formula. No, it's kind of like my thing.
You like it now?
I learned to love it. My friends.
Do you mix the formula into the oatmeal? Because that would have been the first thing I tried. Can you have sugar? Well, I mean, I guess not. Like, there's no flavorings that you could try? Wow.
I always joke that, like, they should replace, like, the Quaker Oats head with, like, my head.
100%.
Yeah.
You've earned that.
Yeah.
You probably eat more oats than any person else. You deserve to be...
What are you wetting the oats with? Milk or water? Probably water.
Are you not working with them?
Yep.
Why is there
Yep.
a baby?
Dear
Smell-
Quaker, get
smell
this girl on a box.
Sponsorship opportunity.
My DMs are open.
Yes, inquire from the baby.
Pop
about
on into her
local
DMs.
hauntings.
She's earned it.
Yes. Were you able to get to the point where you were able to row again? How does it affect your energy levels to do beyond
Good
just
question.
existing?
Yeah. So the end of my sophomore year was when I had that relapse reaction. I decided to take my junior year, or what would have been my junior year, off. But, you know, the real story behind that is I did actually move into college for my junior year for a week and then had a complete physical and mental breakdown because I was so exhausted. And I was like, I can't believe I can't do this, but I can't physically do this. And then moved all the way
Makes
back
sense.
out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I needed to take some time for my body and all of that. So I rested a lot that year. It just happened that in that winter, a viral pandemic hit. And so it was okay timing on my part, I'd say, because everybody...
Yeah.
I really hate the fact that everyone has to be really careful about saying COVID. It's like, this was a major moment in the world history. And because of censorship and just the bullshit that YouTube and Google pulled about, like, basically yanking damn near anything where someone uttered the word COVID. Take it down, bastards, I dare you. Now we can't even say that word, even though it's something we really should be talking about. We should continue to be talking about it, even if we're not being affected directly by it anymore. How do you prevent shit if you're not allowed to talk about it? Anyway, I'm so mad about that. That aggravates me. But anyway, here we are.
I had to go home.
Everybody took a break. Everybody. The entire world was like, you know what? It's nap time.
They're like, she's on
Flirt with
something.
Travis?
So
Trendsetter.
that year was
VIP
like...
Lounge, trendsetting.
That's right. I'm influencing. But
Travis is over
COVID was
here
really
macking
scary
it up
for
with everybody.
people with pre-existing conditions. So I was
Mhm.
really the girl in the bubble because I was so scared to get COVID and to die of it. But then the following year, I resumed my courses and my classes because everything was online because of COVID. So that was another silver lining. But I was really exhausted. I think for the first, I'd say, year or 2 years after that relapse from the Caribbean, I was exhausted. I was taking naps every day. I felt like I was in a fog. I don't really have a lot of memories. My memories all come from my pictures, so I can recount things from my pictures, but I think my brain fog was just off the charts. And I think that my body was just trying to do kind of the bare minimum. I lost my period for a while, and
I mean, I know you're saying that your meal is nutritionally complete because you've got the oatmeal and the baby formula, but what you're saying now is telling me that it is not. But what are your options? Poor thing. I do feel sorry for her, and yeah, having it be that bad. Okay, now I take back everything I said earlier. I really do. I take it all back. I apologize. This is what I was expecting. I was expecting this. I am shocked that it's oatmeal and baby formula, but hey, man, at least you found something, and it's not just baby formula. I mean, it could be worse, I guess.
I was just loaded in like really weird places, and my body was just off. So I'd say I really felt like I got back to myself for my senior year, which was the fall of 2021. And at that point, I had slowly but surely built up some tolerance for physical activity. So I was walking, running a bit, doing kind of very low impact exercises. So technically, if you look at the roster, I was on the rowing team for the entirety of my college experience, but I really was barely in the boat. But I will say my senior year, I was back to practicing probably 50 to 60% of what the rest of the team was doing, which was a huge improvement from the rest of my college experience. And then by the spring of my senior year, I was back in the boat. So that was a really emotional day when I got back in. And it was, again, one of those moments where I felt so much love around me and so many people supporting me and wanting to see me come full circle. So that was important for me for a few reasons. One being that I was on scholarship actually for rowing at this college. And I was really, really proud of that. I was really proud to be a top recruit. So I think that I needed that closure to see out, why I really was at this school. And
I'm impressed that she's able to get enough calories in just through the formula and the oatmeal alone to be able to row. Because that's a lot. That's not just like an extra walk here and there. That's days of rowing. So, all right, I don't know what's going on here with all these Sims, but they really should not be flirting this much with each other. I mean, It annoys me a little bit, I'm not gonna lie.
Also, just to kind of feel like I was back a part of that community that I held so near and dear to my heart.
So now you graduate college and you have a similar path to Anna and myself in that you have taken your story online. Can you talk about what inspired you to start sharing your kind of disease journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I really didn't.
I actually have something wrong with me that is not my fault and is somewhat inexplicable. That's what made me decide to share my journey, because I have an actual problem, Anna. Sorry, not gonna let it go. Sorry, not sorry.
Talk much about my health or my health journey prior to this year publicly online. All of my close friends and family knew about everything, but I really wanted to be perceived as normal. I really had hope that I'd eventually heal and be normal. And I think that I wanted to.
So real.
Yeah, I wanted to maintain an image just in case I was normal again.
Anna, honey, sweetheart, sugar plum, your experiences are nothing like this woman's. You're not even on like the same like category. You're obese. She can't eat anything except oatmeal and baby formula, and it's kind of questionable how long that's gonna last. So no, honey, no.
I think if you look at my social media from my freshman year until spring of this past year, you would be like, oh my God, she's totally normal, happy, healthy. Like, look at her moving and grooving. She gets out in the world. She's wearing her cute outfits. And I lived for that, because there's just I should honestly make a little TikTok about it, but there's so many pictures where it's like the real story behind the picture would just absolutely just have people gobsmacked. Like, I would have to lay down for 2 days after because I was standing up for 30 minutes taking pictures or, something like that.
And there's like an embarrassment and a shame. Like, you can't hang, right? Like,
this woman has an actual problem, Anna. You're just overweight. Not even overweight. You're just obese and refuse to admit it.
I can't hang, so I can't. But I don't want anybody to know that, because I'm afraid that maybe next time they won't invite me.
Yeah.
Maybe next time it'll be too difficult.
Yeah.
Maybe if people knew how sick I really was, they wouldn't want to be around me, because being around me takes work.
Exactly. Yeah.
I imagine being around you takes work, not because you're super duper special, but because you are just like extra on all chords. That's my guess with Anna. This poor girl has an actual issue. And I still am like, why the fuck would you even go to a restaurant? But, in the end, I guess it got her here where she can eat baby food and formula, or oatmeal and formula, for the rest of her life. Wow. I guess you just gotta find like different joys in life then, don't you? Like, you can't turn to food, so I guess you gotta find something else, some other way to like celebrate everything. Like, what else do? You can't even have carrots and sweet potatoes anymore. Like, I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
So I was kind of operating under that mask for a while. A year after graduating college, I switched mast cell specialists because my old mast cell doctor was going full-time into research. So all of her patients got moved over to her coworker. He basically took a look at my chart. I had my initial intake with him. He looked at my chart and he was like, oh my God, you take 100 milligrams of Benadryl every night? And I was like, yep, on the dot, 11 p.m. Like, thinking I'm like the best patient ever, And then he's like, and you take...
Yeah, okay, like, why? This is the first I've heard her talk about... Like, she said she had medicine, and she did briefly mention pills. This is the first I've heard her talk about her doctors talking about her meds. Like, I don't know, man. I'm interested to see where this goes. I'm actually vaguely interested in this story. I don't think I was at first, but here we are. The conclusion, the wrap-up of this podcast snagged my attention.
Zyrtec 3 times a day, you take Allegra 3 times a day, you take omeprazole twice a day, you
Jesus
take
Christ.
going through all these
Allegra
lists of
and
medications.
Zyrtec?
He's like, are you tired? And I'm like, extremely, every day. Like, all I want to do is sleep. And he's like, you're on a medication you're on double the dose that people are allowed to be on if they like operate heavy machinery. And I'm like, okay, yep. And he was like, also, you're on like double the amount of Montelukast that is also known as Singulair that's allowed, because there's like a black box label on it, like about like suicidal ideations and depression and stuff. And he was like, how are you mentally? And I'm like, I'm okay, like, I'm doing the thing.
So, I mean, how are you? I used to see that conversation. I just, how do you feel? Sorry.
And, doing life. But long story short, he was like, we need to get you off of a lot of these meds, or at least we need to decrease your dosage by a lot. And this is all to say that I basically took some time off of work. So I've been a healthcare recruiter for 2 years now, and I took a few months off of work to do a big medication taper. And that medication taper lasted from September of 2023 until March or April of 2024. So at that time, I was not working. I had a lot of free time, and the fall was really, really difficult. I was highly symptomatic. And he told me that. He said, we're taking you off of these antihistamines. We're decreasing your dosages, like, for the sake of your long-term health. But in the short term, you're going to be really uncomfortable and your body's going to be adjusting. And that's exactly what happened. I was more reactive in the fall and the winter, and felt a lot more sick, and it was upsetting. But by the springtime, I felt more like myself, and I was nearing that medication taper. But I still had that.
But she hasn't mentioned going into anaphylactic shock again. Sorry, my eyeball's giving me problems. So I guess that's good, right? It sounds like it's one of those things, like, my grandmother had a lot, right? My dad's mother, who I get my arthritis from. But because she was on arthritic medicine, and had, like, a variety of doctors, as I am older now, and I look back on things from my childhood, I'm like, I see a lot of things. I see a lot of things now. But anyway, she was on, like, a bunch of medications. And then when she got cancer and she had to go into the hospital the first few times, and that was a whole thing. But anyway, you know how you do. You take the bag of medicine. I don't know how many of you have taken care of older family members who are, like, on a crap ton of meds and go to the doctor a lot. But this is one of the things I tell you to do. Put all the meds in a baggie and have a handwritten list or a typed up list of everything, the dosages and what times. And that's for you, not for them. So that you can take it with you when you go to the doctor with them and go, this is what's going on. Because 9 times out of 10, I have found doctors don't know what the fuck you're on. And they just keep prescribing you shit. And it's kind of weird. But here we are. So, that's the American medical system. I don't know how it works in other countries, but here we are. But yeah, when she got cancer and we did the whole, like, here's the litany of pills. She was on, like, 12 meds or something ridiculous like that. Anyway, her cancer doctors were like, why is she on half of these? Like, I don't know, man. They told her to start taking it, and we were like, okay. And so she started taking it. You're the doctor. And so they took her off a bunch of her meds. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like, every doctor just started prescribing her stuff. And at some point, they just started prescribing her medications to handle the side effects of other medications that she was on, because she needed those medications for something else. And it's just like, what are we doing, guys? Like, so now I'm, like, really itchy when I go to the doctor and they're like, oh, well, you need to be on this medication, but we can give you another medication for that medication. And I'm like my Wellbutrin. My Wellbutrin causes an increase in anxiety. So they have me on an anti-anxiety pill. And I really like the Wellbutrin, so I'm willing to tolerate that, right? But if, like, at some point they're like, yeah, well, the anxiety medication makes you break out in hives. It doesn't, but what if it did? So here's this other medication to deal with the hives. How about we just find a medication that doesn't make me break out in hives? Like, why don't we eliminate that step as opposed to creating another one? It sounds like that's what's going on here, too. That's enough rambling.
Free time in my hands. And I don't know, one day I just kind of had this moment of realization where I was like, I don't think that I'm ever not going to have mast cell. I was like, I actually think I'm gonna, they're probably right. I'm probably gonna have this forever. So I made a video. I just propped up my phone, and I had made TikToks before, but it was all very, aesthetic or funny or, nothing ever showing my illness. And I just set up my phone and I was like, this is what I eat 3 times a day, every day for the last, 5 years. And immediately it caught fire and people were so interested. And it was everybody from, people with normal food allergies saying like, oh my God, I thought I had it bad being allergic to nuts or being celiac, but this doesn't even compare. Or just people who had no health conditions, but they were really curious about why was I on this diet? Like, why can I only eat 2 foods? And then also people who are in my exact same situation being like, I have mast cell activation. I'm down to 4 foods. I'm really, really struggling right now. So a mixture of all those responses ignited this kind of passion in me to continue to share and to answer questions and recognize that by no means am I an expert or a doctor or anything like that, but I do have a lot of experience just with my experience. I have a lot of experience with my body and my life, and I can at least share that. So since March, I've been shamelessly kind of posting my day-to-day, my lifestyle, and it's improved my quality of life so much.
I am mildly interested to look her up and find out what's going on. All right. We got 10 minutes left. We will get through it, I promise. I'm just going to let it play out, probably. Maybe, I don't know. We'll find out. But my point is so this girl has a social media presence. The doctor has a social media presence. Anna clearly has. I mean, we all know Anna. I haven't listened to the first episode that wasn't Anna's, so I guess the second episode. I might go back and listen to it to find out if that lady also has a social media presence, and then it's become, if that is true, and I think the third episode's out by now, but if that is true, then the trend appears to be that they are interviewing people who are already influencers, are already people with a social media presence, and those are the people that they picked to be interviewed. So not only are they banking off of the doctor's doctor, even though she's done more in this episode than she did in Anna's, and apparently more than she did in the first episode. But they're also relying on the optics and the credibility of the people that they are interviewing. So they're doing to these people what Amron did with Anna, where he was like, ooh, 8.5 million followers on TikTok, you say? Would you like some discounted surgery? They're not offering surgery, obviously, but they're getting these people so that they can interview them, so that these people will be like, hey, I got interviewed by this podcast, to build an audience for the podcast. It's actually a pretty smart move, to be perfectly honest. So there's that. But that's just the trend I'm noticing. But so yeah, all right. Anyway,
many ways that I could have never anticipated.
I would say that you are an expert in yourself, as you said. And I think there's as much value in medical advice as there is in the experiential advice, and having someone who's been able to get it, manageable. I think manageable is the best word you can use, because it's like you said, it's never going to be perfect. So I think for people struggling, even people not even with the same condition, just finding an answer and being able to live in that truth is a really powerful thing. And being able to see how it changes someone is also really powerful.
Thank you.
It's not that I don't agree with Anna. It's just I don't like Anna talking about it, because Anna's problem is she's morbidly obese, and she wants everybody to believe that it's not her problem. She wants you to believe that her problem is she has super special obesity genes that no one has ever seen before and no one knows what they do. So how do you know that they're causing your problems, Anna? But anyway, that's her thing. It's not my fault that I'm 600 pounds. It's my super special obesity genes. So there's that. Well, at this point, I think she's had like almost 50 or 70 some odd pounds literally sucked off of her body with liposuction. So I guess she's not as heavy as she used to be, which is going to make things really interesting here in a little while.
What has been your most watched video?
I think it was from this summer. Me and my not toxic gaslighting boyfriend.
A good boyfriend.
Yes. Me and my boyfriend went out to dinner, I'd say, drinks in heavy quotations, because I can't really eat or drink anything from restaurants. And I essentially showed people what I do when I hit the town.
Yeah.
So I basically can't drink from communal glasses because maybe the dishwasher didn't do a great job, and maybe somebody ate something that it's like a really big trigger for me.
Wow.
I can't even drink from the plastic cups just in case somebody, touched an allergen and then touched the rim of the cup.
Wow.
And yeah, I showed myself ordering a bottle of water and then being like, can I just have it from the bottle? And them giving me like a really big bottle and being like, you sure? And me being like, mm-hmm. And then just drinking the water from the bottle. And my boyfriend ordering a fun cocktail, and us sharing this moment of, being out, being on a date, having a beautiful sunset in front of us, and having it be a really good experience. But, it looks a little different for me. I can't order a fun cocktail, but.
So okay. Does he put like a piece of plasticine up between you guys when you kiss, though? Because like, if you can't even drink from a plastic cup, on the off chance somebody had something on their hands and they touched the rim of said cup, he's drinking. how is that not? I mean, you were even saying that douchebag boyfriend was a douchebag and had to brush his teeth before the two of you could even kiss. Like, I'm just curious. I'm not saying non-douchebag boyfriend isn't brushing his teeth or, I don't know, caring. How do you disinfect your mouth when everything sets you off? Like, I'm so curious about this. Anyhow, love life must be really hard to navigate.
It's a lot better than, sitting at home and doing nothing.
You found a way to live. I think that's what's so inspiring about something like that, is you found your own version of living. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. I got a lot of comments that are like, I can never live like this. Or, I'd rather end my life than, whatever. But I think
people are unaware of how much they can actually tolerate if it comes down to life or death. I think people are like, oh my God, I'd rather XYZ. Yeah, okay, sure. Until it actually happens. We're very adaptable creatures.
For one thing, you'd be surprised at what you're able to withstand. And also you'd be surprised at what you can focus on that you can be really happy about and grateful for. And there's a lot in that video, although I'm not able to drink out of a glass like a normal person or drink a cocktail like a normal person, I was still at this beautiful restaurant with my amazing boyfriend and watching a beautiful sunset. And I don't know, even just little things like I got dressed up and I really liked my outfit that day, and being grateful that I had people to share it with online who care. And
yeah, do the cosmetics not set her off? I mean, I'm sure she's really careful about what cosmetics she buys if she's got like anything related to a nut allergy, but like, does the lipstick, how do you navigate that? I have a lot of questions. What do you want, Arun? I don't care. I really wish they'd quit asking us those questions. I wish you could turn those off. You probably can, and I just don't know how.
Who are curious.
What are your hopes for the future?
I am very, very hopeful and optimistic that I will eventually be able to expand my diet. I'm working with my doctor and other health professionals to food trial. Food trialing is really tough because it invites instability. I know that food is one of my biggest triggers, and to willingly rock the boat is scary. And it's, you also question saying, okay, why am I doing this? Because if I could just do oats and formula forever and just live normally and feel good, then that would be fine. But I think the thing that keeps me persistent about food trialing is that I've seen other people with muscle activation slowly but surely incorporate foods back into their diet. Me being one of those people. My freshman year of college, I was only on those 3 foods. And then over time, I was able to expand. I also know how much food impacts our overall well-being and our health. And I think I would be doing a disservice to my body if I gave up on that hope or that part of life. And I also, just kind of from a mental perspective, like I was talking with my friend the other day, and she recently got engaged, and we were joking around, and she was like, what kind of, like, are you gonna have an oatmeal and formula cake? And I was like, girl, I can't even joke about that, because like I need to picture myself having a regular cake at my wedding. Otherwise, like, I don't know how much I have to live for. Which sounds so dramatic, but it's true. Like,
oh yeah, bitches, we're having oatmeal and baby formula at the wedding. Because if I have to suffer, so do you. Seriously. So many questions, though. All right, I'm going to let her finish.
You need to have that version of yourself, that ideal version of yourself that you're working towards. Otherwise, what are you just be stagnant all the time. So food trialing is hard. There's a lot of things that go into it. It's, I'm coordinating with my mast cell specialist. I'm coordinating with my more holistic doctor, and it all has to be low histamine. It all has to be single ingredient. It has to be organic and, minimal pesticides. And there's so many pieces of the equation, all for it. Sometimes all for it just to fail, and sometimes objectively the reaction is just too bad and you have to move on to a different food. But it's difficult because there's not a quantitative measurement. Your body doesn't say, hey, that was like an 8 out of 10. So maybe try a different food. It's all very objective, and there's a lot that can play into it. If I don't get enough sleep one day, I'm more reactive. If I'm stressed out about something, I'm more reactive. And some days I'm just randomly more reactive for no reason I can point to. So food trialing is difficult. And I put it off for a while. I did not food trial during my junior or senior year of college because I wanted to get back to classes. I wanted to get back to rowing. I wanted to get back on campus. I didn't food trial my first year out of college because I had a job that I loved and I still love, but I wanted to prioritize that and be, successful. And then the year after that, I had to do my medication taper, which was increasing a lot of my symptoms. So that was in no way stable ground for me to food trial. And now I'm at this place where over the last few months, it's necessary for me to push that boundary. And it's definitely a long road, but I'm hopeful that I can get one more food, back in my diet. And although it's, proven difficult at times, I've tried and failed sweet potato and broccoli and chicken and a handful of other things before that. It is not going to help if I believe that it'll never happen. So I'm really hopeful that I have some normalcy back with my diet. And I think it is, essential for my long-term health. And yeah, I think I can see myself getting there. It's just a matter of finding the right food, being in the right circumstances where my nervous system is settled and I don't have any triggers around me. But I also hope to keep on keeping on every day and finding things to be joyful about and be grateful for. And I think I've done a really good job at adapting to my situation and accepting that this is my new normal.
I'm incredibly impressed that she was able to do rowing.
I don't think I could have been posting on TikTok my freshman year, my sophomore year, my junior year, or even my senior year, because I just hadn't reached that level of acceptance. And I was still going through a period of mourning where I was mourning my potential life. I was convinced I was going to go abroad. I just had this whole vision that didn't come to fruition. And now I can see, although it's been a really, really rugged journey, it's led me to some beautiful places and beautiful people. For example, I just made a huge purchase. I just bought a van that I'm going to make my safe bubble on wheels.
That's cute.
And
I like that. That's cute.
And that is
I'm so excited.
Yeah, that's going to be an incredibly adventurous chapter of my life that I don't know if I would have done that if I didn't have all these kind of restrictions and challenges with my body,
I can't wait to see you document that. I think that's going to be fascinating because I'm there for the reno, but then also like that added element of adapting it to fit you is really cool. It's really cool. I'm excited about that.
Thank you. I just, I don't want to be in my childhood bedroom for the rest of my life. As much as I love my childhood and I love my parents, they want to see me get out there too, I think that's one way I can certainly do that.
I'm thinking like Pimp My Ride comes.
Oh yeah.
Or like home makeover, but it's the van.
Is that us?
Well, thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable and sharing your story and sharing the brave parts and the scary parts. I think there are so many young women, I don't, again, know if it is a generational thing, but I feel like there is just so much more diagnosis of autoimmune disorders and conditions that are related, like MCAS.
I think there's just more people who are allergic to everything these days. Like, what's happened? I'm not saying there's like people who are faking it. I'm like, why are there so many? Like, everybody's got something these days, right? And I'm not counting gluten, but it's like everybody's got something wrong with them these days. And I don't get it. Like, what happened? What happened in like, because it's clearly something about society, right? Because it happens too quickly for it to be an evolutionary thing, Anna. But anyway, the point is like, what are we doing? It must be the chemicals in the food and just all the bullshit that we put, all the pollution and shit in the air, because like everybody's allergic to everything these days. It's just bizarre to me. Anyway.
And POTS and Ehlers-Danlos that are unfortunately becoming more and more common. And
interesting that you bring up the two things that Anna's trying to pretend like she has.
People need people to look up to. And so I think you are going to be really, a shining example for them.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you so much, both of you. Like, you both too are, providing so much valuable input in the medical world. And I'm just like really honored to have the opportunity to speak with you both and share my story. And you're both very good listeners and you ask incredible questions. So I'm really excited to see where this podcast goes.
Okay, that's the end of that. So, final thoughts. Well, maybe I will bundle this together because I don't remember the last one being that long. I will say the longer the podcast went, the better I liked it. I was confused there in the middle, like what we were doing. The girl, Caroline, I don't know, man. She's got problems, right? I don't know. I can't say one way or the other. The doctor only mentioned doctory things like twice, I think. She never explained what the fuck mast cells were. Like, are we saying mast or mass? I still don't know. Anna contributed literally nothing. But she didn't twist everything back around to herself. So progress. Maybe she'll pick up on this. But yeah, I'm interested how many of these were pre-recorded though, because you know these are being released every week. I know that kind of a podcast schedule is like insane, right? Without help. So how many of these episodes were recorded a week, a month ahead of time, which is really not an issue. But the problem is if you're getting feedback on the first or second episode, you can't incorporate it into the third or fourth episode if you recorded all 4 episodes in the same like month, you know? But that's the only downside to that. So I'm just interested how many of these got pre-recorded. Anna's gone real quiet on her social media. Like, she has completely blocked comments on YouTube. You can't comment on anything. She went and turned comments off on all her videos, all 8 years worth of videos. Like, it's insane. I've never seen that. And then also you haven't been able to comment on her shorts for a really long time. I haven't looked at TikTok, but TikTok, you know, for a minute there didn't exist. So I haven't been over there since the great ban of 2025. And Instagram, yeah, I'm blocked. So, and I'm too lazy to go get an alternate account to go look. The point is, Anna's gone dark, and I don't know why. And it probably has something to do with her surgeries, because I think her arm surgeries were this month. She's going to look really weird when she starts gaining weight again, guys. It's just going to be really weird looking. But yeah. So she's been posting all of these like throwback things, and I might go through and look at the throwback stuff just because, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know what she's doing because it's been a while. So is she recording more podcast episodes during this time? Is she working on another independent film? Is she making new sweaters? What's she doing? Because she's not making videos, which means she's not getting paid for promotional stuff. She's not making new YouTube content. Again, I haven't checked TikTok, so we'll see if she's putting up fresh content over there. But you don't make money on TikTok the same way you make money on YouTube. So, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. This episode, it's all right. I guess we'll give the next one a shot. I don't know if I'll go back and listen to the second one. I don't know what the comments look like on this one. Let's see if we can go look at the comments. I would expect the comments on this one to be relatively, like, not bad. Well, I'm apparently crazy. I cannot figure out for the life of me where you would see the comments on Spotify or Apple. I can't find them on Apple either. It would not surprise me if they are completely turned off, because again, Anna's completely turned off all of the episodes, all of the ability to comment on YouTube. And let's check out her Twitter. No. Anyway, so I don't know. As a third episode, it's not that bad. There you are. Caroline was very careful to say that this was her experience and it wasn't everybody's experience, but she's just sharing her experience, which is fine. Caroline also appears to actually have an issue, a real issue. Anna tried desperately to compare herself to Caroline, but I mean, dude, no, you're just an overweight woman who refuses to admit you have a problem. Caroline, on the other hand, is apparently allergic to everything. I have a lot of questions. So it would be interesting to go check out her TikTok, I guess. Here's the thing. There's no information about it here, though. Like, there's no link to Caroline's TikTok or anything. There's not even like a full name, so I can't even go look her up. Like, there's no way for me to find her on TikTok. I just know she is there. And what am I going to do? Type in Caroline on TikTok? Do you know what's going to happen? So that's kind of unfortunate, but again, tracks. Anna's not real good about doing that kind of stuff, which makes me wonder if Anna has more control over this podcast than anybody else does, which is, again, unfortunate. Just because, like, the way the descriptions are written is just ridiculous. There's no links to anything. There's no information. I mean, I'm comparing it to something like the Diary of a CEO. Now, in fairness, he has like an entire team. I don't even think he has control over anything anymore. He just records shit and everybody else makes it happen. But in the comments section, there's papers, there's links, there's videos, there's all kinds of extra stuff. It would not have killed them to put a link to Carolyn's TikTok because I'm curious. I want to see. She sounds interesting. How do you navigate life when all you can eat is baby formula and oatmeal? Yeah, there's nothing there. Overall, content-wise, it was fine. The sound seems to be fixed. It didn't sound as quiet to me, but I guess I'll find out in post. And that's all I've got. I can't really evaluate it on like medical information one way or the other, but there didn't seem to be a lot. There was what Carolyn was telling us about what happened and her side of it, but like I still don't know what a mast. I mean, I kind of know what a mast cell is. I could go look it up. But that takes away from the point of the podcast. Like, why is the doctor here? Surely to God, Dr. Nance knows what a mast cell is, right? And what is it? Is it NAS or mast? Again, I could look it up. But again, it defeats the purpose of the podcast. I shouldn't have to go look that kind of information up. That should have been explained to me in the podcast because this is a medical podcast. It's about medical mysteries. You have a doctor on the podcast. Somebody should have explained it to me. Carolyn briefly mentioned that everybody's got mast cells and it has something to do with your allergies. And she made this analogy to like pulling people over indiscriminately. And I made a comment because it was funny to me. It's funny to me, God damn it. But really, honestly, like, yeah, as far as giving me any kind of like, I don't even remember what the hell Carolyn said she had. But again, I started listening to this like apparently 2 days ago and I've had brain farts since then. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think down in the comments section down below. I am going to bundle these together because I don't remember the other one being very long. And there will be editing here and there because some of this just isn't going to be relevant, really, honestly. And I just don't want another 4-hour episode. I'm sorry you don't get that again. And that's all I've got. So if you've made it this far in the podcast, go ahead and leave a bowl of oatmeal or bowl of something down in the comments section for the oatmeal that we are only allowed to eat for the rest of our lives. God, can you imagine? Could she have flavored oatmeal? Probably not. But yeah, go ahead and leave that down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. If you know how to read the comments, let me know because I am unable to figure it out. And it could be like, very much could be like the TikTok scrolling thing, which would be embarrassing, but I'm okay with it. I just want to know where the damn comments are. So yeah, I think we'll go back and we'll listen to the second podcast episode because we have time. If you guys are enjoying these, let me know. I'll stop if you guys don't because I don't really care that much. And that's all I've got for you guys. I'm sorry for the long drawn out outro, but here we are. Your emoji is a bowl of something, and I will see everybody in the next episode. Bye!
This is my outro music. You can't copyright strike me because it's just me singing. This is my outro music. Thank you for watching. See you next time.